show. We're about to kick off here this morning with our showmanship classes. Senior division will be first. Our judge for today is Mr. Brennan Collega. He's a first-generation cattle producer that was born and raised in Frederick County, Maryland. He grew up showing Hereford cattle through 4-H and FFA at local and state shows. After high school, he attended the Oklahoma State University, where he graduated with a bachelor's degree in agricultural communications. In college, he worked for first-generation cattle producer that was born and raised in Frederick County, Maryland, raising and marketing cattle. After college, he started BK Cattle Enterprises, a livestock marketing company that specializes in livestock photography, videography, sale promotion, and consulting. Amongst the marketing business, Brennan runs a cow-calf operation in Kemar, Maryland with his wife Sid and son Reeves. They show heifers of all breeds that they sell across the country. They also have an annual bred female sale in December where they sell bred cows, bred heifers, and genetics. He appreciates each opportunity he gets to judge shows and work with their youth. Let's put our hands together and welcome Brennan here to the show this morning. And with that, let's get started. Senior showman, let's make your way into the ring. Senior showman, single entry, Katie Miller. Intermediate showman, please be at ringside.
Well, good morning, everyone. It sure is an honor and a privilege to be out here at your Shippensburg Fair, and we're getting started in our showmanship competition this morning. We land on an individual in a single entry out here in our senior division that's going to go ahead and be your champion senior showman as well, and I think she's just very fluid in the way that she gets out here and gets this heifer set up. She walks this female into it, keeps that heifer's head up and ears forward, does a really nice job of getting this heifer presented, and I think something else to note on is being in a single entry out here. A lot of cattle like to kind of act up when they're on their own, and I think it's impressive the way she's been able to not only handle this female, but get her shown and get her presented as a single entry out here, so my hat's off to her. Look forward to seeing her back in here for overall showman later on today. Congratulations.
Senior showmanship first place goes to Katie Miller. Next class in the ring, intermediate showman, ages 14 to 16. 4 entries, Hannah Bruneyes, Olivia Homan, Lexi Carter, and Jordan Naylor. Beef exhibitors, junior showmen, please be at ringside. While we have your attention, just a reminder for our exhibitors throughout the show and especially at the end, please be sure to clean up the grassy area outside of the show ring where your animals may have made a mess on their way back and forth to the tie stalls.
Well, a super competitive set of intermediate showmen out here, and I think all four of them bring a lot of really good things to the table. And maybe tomorrow morning, if we brought all four of these same exhibitors out here with the same cattle, it could probably shake out completely different from top to bottom or bottom to top, however you want to look at it. I think the young lady with the Baldy heifer is probably just the most controlled, and I like the level of intensity that she brings to the table when she's getting this heifer set up. I think that the heifer's maybe giving her a little run for her money in terms of not wanting to totally cooperate and maybe stand as perfectly still as some of the cattle that are behind her, but I think the young lady does a tremendous job of her awareness of being able to get that heifer circled and walk back into it and get her set up and presented again. So maybe didn't stand quite perfect, but I think the awareness that the young lady had and how fast she was able to get her spun around and get her set back up again is what elevated her to the top for me today. So my hat's off to the young lady on making a really, really good run at a competitive set of intermediate showmen. Young lady coming in too does a great job with this particular heifer as well. And I'm one that's big on getting cattle to be able to walk into it. And I will comment that the young lady does a great job of the awareness on how much spread she has on the back two of that heifer. And normally I would be one that wasn't a fan of trying to poke at their feet, but most of the time when you walk her into it, I love how you touch her show side back leg and get her to put her leg back just a little bit further, because it makes that heifer look that much better. So I'm not picking on you at all for doing that, because I think that's what that heifer needs, is to have that little extra spread when she's on the profile. But just a very, very competitive top end. I think tomorrow you could switch these two particular showmen, and I'd listen to your argument all day long. The other one coming in through with the Highland heifer, this is one of the ones that I think if it was a different day tomorrow and the heifer woke up on the right side of the bed and just wanted to chill out some as she got out here, I know this young lady knows what she's doing, and I can tell that she knows what she wants her heifer to do. Today she just drew the short stick on being able to get that heifer to totally cooperate, but my hat's off for the young lady for doing a really good job this entire time. Same deal goes for the Shorthorn Plus heifer and the young lady in the board on the end. This heifer has just been kind of fighting a halter all day, and I think that is definitely frustrating for the young lady, who does a tremendous job of being aware and getting her heifer walked into it. I just wish that this heifer would just settle in a little bit for the young lady, because I can tell she knows how she wants her to look and how she wants her to act, but today just wasn't her day, and unfortunately with livestock, that's sometimes out of our control. But let's give all these exhibitors a big round of applause in the intermediate division. Very, very good top end. Congratulations.
Intermediate showman in first place, Hannah Brenize. Second, Lexi Carter. Third, Olivia Homan. And fourth, Jordan Naylor. Next class in the ring will be our junior showman. 2 entries, Graham Adams and Faith Deal. Novice beef exhibitors, please make your way to ringside. And a reminder once again, please clean up the grass area outside the show ring as you make your way back to the tie stalls.
just two juniors in our division out here, and I think that there's two showmen that are both doing a lot of things right, and I think both have really bright futures ahead of them. For me, I'll land on the young lady with the white bottom heifer to win. I think she's just the most aware in terms of how fast she can get that heifer to walk into it and get her feet staggered and set up the right way, and does a tremendous job of getting kind of a heavier-headed breed with her. She's showing a heavier-headed breed, and the young lady does an awesome job of getting that heifer's head up in the air and getting her to show off and give us a really, really impressive look from the side. I think that female has a really, really cool look and is, for the breed, extremely level and straight down her back, and the young lady does an awesome job of getting her load to kind of flush out her hip there. And I just think that this young lady's doing a tremendous job of showing a breed that I think can be kind of difficult to show at times, and my hat's off to her for doing a really good job. Congratulations on being champion junior showman. Coming next with the Angus heifer, he's doing a lot of things right too. This female maybe wants to be just a little straighter out of her shoulder and straighter in her knee, and I think that that's maybe causing some of the issues for him being able to get her to walk into it and her to be. The young man with the Angus heifer here, you can start making your way out too, sir. This Angus heifer is very, very nice and very stout, and I think brings a lot of really cool pieces to the table. Super long-necked and very attractive throughout the front one with all of her skeleton. So when the young man does get this heifer set up, he gives you a tremendous look from the side because this heifer's just so alert and so up-headed. She's got a set of ears that sit right up on the top of her head, and it can really give you a really impressive look from the side. But like I mentioned earlier, every now and again, she's a little more difficult to get to stagger on her hind two legs on the side profile, and just wants to get a little more uncomfortable off of her front too. But when the young man does get her to settle in and set up, I think that this could be a totally different story in comparison to the showman that we used to win the class. But two very competitive showmen. Had a lot of fun sorting through both of them. Congratulations to both of these junior exhibitors.
Results of our junior showman. First place goes to Faith Deal, and second to Graham Adams. Next class will be our novice showman. 3 entries in this class: Reese Adams, Amelia Brown, and Warren Brown. After this class, we'll be ready to select our champion showman. We'll need our senior showman, Katie Miller, intermediate Hannah Brenneis, and junior showman, Faith Deal. Please be at ringside ready for champion showman. Breeding beef exhibitors, if you have Angus cattle, please be getting ready to come to ringside.
Well, the novice showmanship's always a lot of fun, and usually there's a lot of educating that goes on in the novice division or the Pee Wee division, whichever it is. And I tell you what, these three individuals are doing a tremendous job. I mean, they're very, very competitive. You can tell they know what they need to be doing. You can tell they know where their cattle need to be at. Their eye contact is all extremely good. They're fierce competitors, I can tell, from top all the way to bottom. And just like I mentioned in that class of 4 in the intermediates, I'd say tomorrow, depending on how the cattle act and depending on the way the cards fall, I think that these three individuals could all be shuffled a different way tomorrow. And if you have an argument for me ringside, I would listen to it, because I think that there's a lot of quality amongst these three individuals, and I think that you guys have a tremendous future ahead of you as you grow up in this program. Probably three of some of the most competitive showmen that I think we've seen today have came out of this young division, and I think that's tremendous for our industry, tremendous for your guys' county fair here, and tremendous for you guys as individuals as well. Not only with the gray heifer, I commented earlier, he's just done a great job of not only getting this heifer presented and fit, but I tell you, she's got an awesome hair coat on her. She's clipped to the nines, and he's just so calm, cool, and collective when he's out here getting his heifer shown, but at the same time has a certain level of intensity and competitiveness when he's out here. You can just tell that he wants to win, and I think that calm, cool, collected attitude kind of combined there with that competitive nature is where I land on the young man with the gray heifer. So my hat's off to him on doing a tremendous job of getting her shown. He'll be your champion Pee Wee showman or novice showman today. Congratulations, buddy. And the young lady coming next with the Baldy, I tell you, she's done a tremendous job too. Why don't you go ahead and pull her out here and see if you can get her to set up on your way out. This young lady's a fierce competitor as well. I think there's a couple times there where this heifer's maybe wanting to get a little bit antsy and fight the young lady off of her front end. And I tell you, this young lady does a tremendous job of getting her walked into it and set up, getting her head thrown up in the air. And like I said, if you want to argue with me, I'd listen to an argument on how her and young man need flipped. And if they came back out here tomorrow, there's a really good chance she could win. So you keep up the good work, young lady. You're a tremendous showman as well. And that's not to take anything away from the young lady with the Angus heifer in third, because she could give both of them a run for a money tomorrow if we got to do this all over again. And then she's super aware of what's going on. Her eye contact is extremely good. Today's just probably falls a little short compared to the two showmen that are ahead of her. But let's please put your hands together for those three novice showmen and give them a big round of applause. That was a lot of fun.
Novice showmanship results: first place, Warren Brown; second, Amelia Brown; and third, Reese Adams. We're now ready for our champion showman class. From our senior division, we have Katie Miller; intermediate, Hannah Brenneis; junior, Faith Deal; and novice, Warren Brown.
let's put our hands together for all of our showmanship exhibitors out here. Been a really good show so far, a lot of competition, a lot of very talented kids that are out here from top to bottom. The kids that made it out here are very, very good at what they do, and that's not to take anything away from the kids that didn't make it here into the Grand Drive, because there's a lot of really good, talented kids that saw the gate that ended up second and third and even fourth down there in class, and I just want to let those kids know that didn't make it out here to keep doing what you're doing, because usually at these county fairs, the top end is really, really good, and then it kind of starts to fall off there as we get into some of the younger kids, and even sometimes in when we're in the seniors, the top end's really good, and then there's some kids maybe down towards the bottom that don't quite have it figured out yet, and that has not been the case here at the Shippensburg Fair so far. You guys have been super, super competitive, very, very respectful, very fun to talk to and interact with. My hat's off to you guys at this county fair for doing a great job of raising a really good, competitive set of kids that really know what's going on, that I think could all withstand a lot more competition out at a state or even national level. So congratulations to all you exhibitors. I'm not going to go back through and talk each one of our particular division champions. I feel like we did a good job of that when we were in class. I'm just going to go ahead and get you guys an overall grand champion showman. Let's give these exhibitors one more round of applause. I'll take another look and get you a champion.
Champion breeding beef showman goes to Katie Miller. So our winner will represent breeding beef in the Supreme Showmanship Contest on Friday night. Katie is not eligible as a past winner of the Supreme Contest. So we'll let our judge pick a reserve, and they'll represent breeding beef on Friday night for Supreme Showmanship. And your representative on Friday will be Hannah Brenize. Congratulations. We'll give them a second to get cleared, and then Angus Junior Yearling Heifers. Angus Junior Yearling Heifers, make your way to the ring. Angus Junior Yearling Heifers, 3 entries. Graham Adams with Bella, Mackenzie Wingert with Kaya, and Reese Adams with Sprinkles. This is our only class of Angus, so this will also be our senior and grand champion heifer.
Well, as we get started in our breeding heifer show and get kicked off with this Angus division, three really competitive females that I think all kind of bring something different to the table. But for me, the one that kind of suits the best and checks the most boxes is the young man's heifer. Really prefer this one in terms of her size and the way that she is out of her hip. She's super square, super level, the way that her tail head lays into her spine. A female that's got some muscle and dimension when you get in behind her. Very fresh in terms of her condition. One that when you get off of has a super striking look from the side profile. Very extended throughout the front one-third of her skeleton. Just a female that I think checks a lot of the boxes. And another champion Angus female today. The heifer coming in too, I really like this heifer. I think very practical in terms of her structure. Female that's got some muscle. I like her center body and rib cage, which kind of simulates the class winner and champion that we have here. For me, I think that maybe we could just make this one a little more square there out of her hip and just flatten her there at the point of her shoulder. But I think a female that does a lot of things right, that just runs an ultra-competitive one that we go ahead and use to win the class. The heifer that we round out the class with, one that I think if we could change in terms of her structure and make her a little more fluid in the way she gets out and goes about the ring off of both ends of her skeleton, and then one that we could stop up and get in behind her, can give the two heifers ahead of her a run for her money. But an ultra-cool look from the side, level down her top, and square out of her hip. Really, really nice, practical kind of an Angus female to round the class out with. Congratulations to those three exhibitors.
Junior yearling heifer goes first place to Graham Adams with Bella and second to Mackenzie Wingert with Kaya. Graham and Mackenzie will stand as your champion and reserve senior heifer and grand champion, reserve grand champion Angus heifer. Next class, Angus, best bred and owned, one entry from Mackenzie Wingert with Kaya. Beef exhibitors Simmental is up next. Simmentals and maintainers, please make your way to ringside. Simmental and maintainers.
Well, champion bred and owned Angus will be second in class out of that own class that we just finished up. And I was talking with the young lady a little bit. She said this is out of a first calf heifer, which I think is really awesome. That you can take a first calf heifer and breed her and have her first calf be capable of or worthy of being able to get out and get broke and shown. And like we mentioned before, I think just a really practical kind of female, really good in her structure off both ends of her skeleton. Female with some good muscle. I love her underline and her rib shape that she's got. A female that's going to have a fun fall show and then make a tremendous calf for the young lady. Congratulations.
First place bred and owned to Mackenzie Wingert. Next class, Simmentals. Junior yearling heifer, one single entry from Kira Lehman. This is our single class of Simmentals. So this will also be for our senior champion heifer and grand champion heifer of the Simmentals.
They're a really high quality purebred Simmental female that comes out here. Not only is she easy to gravitate towards because of the way she's marked with that beautiful baldy head, but I tell you, when this young lady gets this one set up and parked, that one can throw her head up high and really show off just how extended and long and feminine and attractive she is throughout the front one-third of her skeleton. Super good in the center portion of her rib cage and her center body. One that's square and leveled on her top and out of her hip, a heifer that's got some muscle. I think this one's very high quality, and when you ask her to go in motion, I think she tracks well. She takes a nice long full stride. I like the way she flexes her hock and pastern. Just a very high quality female that I think is really easy on the eyes when you get her parked and she throws that big beautiful baldy head up in the air. Very high quality female that I wish I had some more competition out here today, but I look forward to seeing back at the end. Congratulations to this young lady.
Junior yearling heifer from Simmentals, first place to Kira Lehman. She'll also stand as your senior champion Simmental heifer and grand champion Simmental heifer. Congratulations. Up next, maintainers. First class junior yearling heifers. 2 entries, Hannah Brenneyes with Indy and Kira Lehman, Miss Lulu.
Well, as we get into our maintainers, I think there's two quality females out here. For me, I'm going to leave them just the way they came in the ring and go ahead and use the Burley heifer to win this particular class. I think in comparison to the heifer that's behind her, she's probably just a little more attractive from her shoulders forward. Maybe not the most attractive in terms of her chin there. She's got a little extra kind of dewlap there at her throat latch, but I still think that heifer's extremely long-necked. I think she ties extremely high, and I think it blends in with a female that's got a lot of muscle when you get in behind her. And I don't mind her being maybe just a little plainer there at her jaw and in her chest floor because she is so big-footed and stout when you get in behind her. Those things you normally do kind of go hand in hand, so I'm not picking on her for that at all. I think if we could get this heifer maybe a little looser in terms of her structure and change the set to her pastern, I think it would change the way that she is when she's asked to set in motion. But when this female is parked and stopped, I like this one better in terms of her hip. I like her better in terms of her muscle pattern. I think her body shape is a little more genuine than the heifer that's behind her, and one that probably just checks all the boxes when she's parked on the standstill from the side profile. It is a fairly easy place for me to land on this particular pair. The blue line heifer that comes in too, I really like this heifer on the center portion of her cage. I think this female's probably got a little more flexible there at her hock and at her pastern than the heifer that we used to win the class, but she's a little firmer in her bone work and firmer in her foot size, maybe not quite as muscular and stout when you get in behind her, but I think as she kind of wakes up there as that other heifer goes out of the ring, she's longer necked than maybe I first realized, but a really nice practical kind of a female that I think is going to make an awesome cow for the young lady. Congratulations to this pair.
Maintainer, junior yearling heifer, first place Hannah Brennies with Indy, and second Kira Lehman with Lulu. Next class, senior yearling heifer, one single entry, Kira Lehman with Pandora. Next in the ring, we'll be selecting our maintainers, senior champion and grand champion heifer. So we need our junior yearling heifers at ringside for selection of champion.
We have a nice single entry out here in our maintainer show, and I think this female's awesome in the center portion of a rib cage, one that's got plenty of turn to her rib shape when you get in behind her, one that's got plenty of volume and mass, a heifer that's really extended and attractive throughout the front one-third of her skeleton, fairly level there out of her hip. A female that for me wants to be a little tighter round when you ask her to go in motion off both ends of her skeleton, which makes her want to look a shot more restricted when you ask her to go in motion. But I think when the young man gets his heifer parked, she does a lot of things right. Long-necked, square-topped, a female that's got some levelness of hip, and then probably her best attribute for me is just how much body and volume she has. Look forward to seeing her back out here in her champion maintainer drive. Congratulations on a nice single entry.
Senior yearling heifer, first place to Kira Lehman's Pandora. We're now ready to select our senior and grand champion heifer of our maintainers. We have our junior yearling heifer, Hannah Brennies, and our senior yearling from Kira Lehman.
in our maintainer show thus far, and as we're getting out here to select a champion female, I'm not going to go through and talk them since we just did that, with there just being 2 classes, but I think that there's one heifer in particular that checks the most boxes and does the most things right for me and is a fairly easy place for me to land, and that'll be the Baldy out of the first class. Congratulations to the young lady.
Senior champion heifer goes to Hannah Brenize's Indy out of the junior yearling class. She'll also stand as your grand champion maintainer heifer. We'll bring in the second place from that junior yearling class, Kira Lehman's Lulu, and we'll select a reserve.
That was a really competitive pair there in that first class with the Blue Worm coming in second for contention for reserve, and I think that that one is most like our class winner in terms of her structural correctness and the way that she just kind of ties everything together in terms of her center body and extension of front end. Just a really practical kind of a moderate type of female that I think pairs the best with that body we used to win. The Blue Worm will be your reserve. Congratulations.
Maintainer, senior champion reserve will go to Kira Lehman's Lulu, and reserve grand to Kira Lehman's Lulu as well. Next class will be pair of maintainer heifers. One entry from Kira Lehman with Lulu and Pandora.
Well, reserve champion maintainer and then our single entry out of our very last class in the maintainer show are both owned by the same person, and they entered in for the pair show out here and scared all the competition away because they're the only 2. But a really nice, high-quality pair of females that I think are both going to go home and make front pasture cows for these young people. My hat's off to them on entering them as a pair show and getting them here and getting them exhibited. Congratulations to both of you guys.
Best pair of maintainer heifers, first place to Kira Lehman. Next is our maintainer best bred and owned, and we have one entry from Kira Lehman as well.
A single entry out here in our bred and owned maintainer show, and this was a female that we talked about when she was out here in class for the own show for just blowing away in terms of how good her center body was and how very good she was with that turn to her rib shape and turn to her cage. A female that I think does a lot of things right. We talked about maybe changing in terms of her structure, the way that she gets out and goes off both ends of her skeleton, but for the bred and owned show and being a single entry, I think that's a heifer that they really need to be proud of. Congratulations to these exhibitors.
Maintainer bred and owned, first place awarded to Kira Lehman. Next up, we're into our other registered purebreds. Senior heifer calf class. We have a single entry from Olivia Homan with Scarlet. This single entry in the other registered purebreds will also be for our junior champion heifer.
as we're getting started in our All Other Pure Breed show, we have a single entry Highland female here, and this is a breed that you're just starting to see more and more of the more places that you go. It seems like every county fair there's always a handful of them, and then we've been paying more and more attention to the Highland breeds at the national shows because the quality of these cattle are extremely good. Not only are they good and hairy, and now that they've kind of accepted the fact that they are going to fit them and clip them and present them like the rest of them, I think that it's a breed that's drawn a lot of attention from a lot of guys across the industry, regardless of what breeds they're used to showing. They can all appreciate the Scottish Highlanders. They're really good in terms of their structure. This female is as well. They're usually cattle that are really good in the center portion of their cage and have some muscle, and then at that same time have some presence about them, and that's the three things that this Highland female definitely combines. Very excited to see her back out here later. Congratulations to the young lady.
Senior heifer calf, first place awarded to Olivia Homan, will also be our junior champion heifer of the other registered purebreds. Next in the ring, other registered purebreds. These are junior yearling heifers. Lexi Carter's Blackbird, Jordan Naylor with Charlie, and Hannah Brown-Eyes Amelia.
Well, as we're making our way through our All Other Breeds division, there's one that I land on very, very easily for me, and that's the percentage Simmental heifer. that the young lady brings us in the pink shirt. I think this one just does a lot of things right. Super, super good in terms of her structure. I love how flexible she is in the angle to her shoulder. I love the angle and set that she has to her knee, a female that gets out about the ring just flawlessly in terms of the way that she goes off both ends of her skeleton. Love this one in terms of her underline. She's so clean and so crisp and fresh from her forehead all the way back to her flank. Looks like kind of her udder or teat development, like she's going to have a phenomenal udder as a cow. I like this one in terms of her size. She's not huge, I wouldn't call her moderate either, but just kind of right there in terms of size and a female that's got some muscle when you get in behind her. Probably not the longest necked or the freakiest one that we've seen all day long from her shoulders forward, but I tell you what, that one just does a lot of things right and is extremely hard for me to put a hole in. A very, very easy place for me to start. Congratulations on a really nice class winner. The Red Baldy coming into another percentage scimitar. You got to appreciate this one for her density and her mass and her bone work. A female that's so stout in terms of her muscle when you get right in behind her. For me, I just need to change that one in terms of her chest floor and make her a little more attractive throughout the front one-third of her skeleton and tighten her up there at her throat latch. But you got to appreciate the muscle and the power that this female brings to the table. Going to make a phenomenal cow for the young lady down the road. Shorthorn Plus heifer we're down the class out with. You got to appreciate this one in terms of her flexibility and structure. We just need to change this one from her hooks to her pins and level her out of her hip and stouten her up when we get right in behind her to get her to compete with those percentage scimitars that are ahead of her. But a very high quality female in her own right. Congratulations to these three exhibitors.
Junior yearling heifer, first place, Lexi Carter's Blackbird. Second, Hannah Brennaz with Amelia. And third, Jordan Naylor's Charlie. Next class, unregistered purebreds, a 2-year-old heifer, Olivia Homan with Nirvana.
Well, a really nice single entry out here, another Scottish Highlander female, and like I talked about before, this breed's known for being very good in terms of their structure. The angle of this one's shoulder, the set that she has to her knee, her fluidness of structure and movement when you ask her to go in motion is all very, very good. Flexible in her hock, extremely flexible in her pastern when you ask her to go in motion. Very good and robust there in the center portion of her rib cage. Just a very, very nice kind of a female that's a great representation of the breed. Congratulations to the young lady on a really nice single entry.
2-year-old heifer, first place goes to Olivia Homan with Nirvana. Next, we're ready to select our senior champion heifer. We need our junior yearling from Lexi Carter and our 2-year-old from Olivia Homan.
As we get out here and select this division champion within our AOB show, I still gravitate to the Percentage Scimitar. She's kind of stuck in my mind ever since I saw her come in earlier this morning. Like I mentioned in class, very good in terms of her structure, very, very good in terms of her underline, just super, super complete, and a very, very easy class winner and now division winner for me. Congratulations to the young lady in the pink.
Senior champion heifer goes to Lexi Carter. We'll bring in Hannah Brennizes, the second place junior yearling heifer, Amelia, and we'll pick a reserve.
That was a tough class there that our champion in this division came out of, and there's a lot of differences there between our first and second place heifers, but the Percentage Scimitar, the red baldy that comes in behind her, there's just too much cow power there for me to leave her out of this division. Super stout, really good in terms of her center body, and I think going to make a tremendous cow for the young lady. She'll be your reserve in this division. Congratulations.
Reserve senior champion goes to Hannah Brennaz with Amelia. We're now ready to select our grand champion heifer of the other registered purebreds. We need our junior champion heifer, Olivia Homan's Scarlet, and senior champion heifer, Lexi Carter's Blackbird. Exhibitors of other registered purebred bulls, you should be at ringside. You're up next. Other registered purebred bulls, you're up next.
Well, as we get you a champion AOB female, I do want to comment that I think it is important that you keep in mind that these cattle don't have enough within their particular breeds to have their own division. So when you're evaluating the Percentage Scimitars or the mains or the low mains or keys or whatever gets thrown in that AOB division, I do think it's important that we're evaluating the cattle against one another, but then when you're following one that you really like, how competitive is she within that particular breed? If there was more of them, would she be able to hold her own? And I think that that's an important thing to kind of keep in the back of my mind when we evaluate, say, a Scottish Highlander. I know there might only be one or two of them in the show, but if there was 50 of them here, how good is that particular Scottish Highlander? So I do keep that in mind as we get out here and evaluate in the AOB breeds. My family and I, we raise a lot of mains and keys and scimitars and Angus, and with that being said, a lot of those percentage breeds get thrown into the AOB. So I'm very familiar with being able to show in the AOBs. And I've heard other judges comment on that, and I appreciate that when I'm on the other side of the fence exhibiting cattle, knowing that they're judging them in respect to their particular breed, even though there's not just a whole bunch of them. With that being said, I think in terms of the Percentage Scimitar that just won that last division, as we get her back out here, I still think she just checks all the boxes, and I think she could withstand a lot more competition if it was here. I think her structure's incredible. I think her center body and her proportions are awesome. Her muscle, just a female that combines a lot of really good things. She'll be your champion AOB female. Congratulations to the young lady.
Grand champion heifer of the other registered purebreds goes to Lexi Carter's Blackbird. We'll bring in our reserve senior champion, Hannah Brennaz, with Amelia, and we'll pick a reserve.
As we mentioned earlier, that was a tough class that our champion heifer came out of, and the heifer that came in two ended up being reserved to her in that particular division. And I'm going to say the same thing I just said for her to be reserved in that division. There's just too much cow power there for me to leave her behind, too much muscle and too much mass for me to forget about her and not use her to be reserve champion. So congratulations to the young lady. The red baldy will be reserved.
Reserve grand champion of the other registered purebreds goes to Hannah Brennaz with Amelia. Up next, we're ready for our junior bull calf class. Junior bull calf, other registered purebreds, 2 entries, Amelia Brown with Rex and Amelia Brown with Butterscotch.
All right, we get started in our AOB bull class, and I think it's awesome that the young lady's done such a good job of getting these calves broke so early, because that's a lot of work, and it's not an easy feat for her, and I'm sure her parents or grandparents or aunt or uncle or whoever's helping her at home. That's quite a project to be able to bring 2 young calves to the show like that. I think that the cream-colored steer or the yellow bull out front just does the most things right. He's a little bigger in terms of his bone work. He's stouter in terms of his muscle for me. I think one that ties a little higher out of the top side of his shoulder. A calf that probably has a shot more presence, and for me at this particular stage of the game, wins fairly handily. But like I told the young lady, as these things progress and grow and mature, it could be a whole different ball of wax 12 months from now. But that's where I land, is on the yellow bull to go ahead and win. But that's not to take anything away from the gray calf in 2. I think this calf's good in terms of his structure, good about the front 1/3 of his skeleton, just probably not quite as stout and muscular as the bull that we used to win the class, but 2 very, very nice calves, 2 very, very nice bull prospects. Congratulations to these exhibitors.
Junior bull calf, first place Amelia Brown's Butterscotch, second Amelia Brown's Rex. She'll also stand as your junior champion and reserve junior champion bull. Next class, junior yearling bull, other registered purebreds. We have a single entry from Kira Lehman with Make You Famous.
A really good single entry in our AOB bull show out here, and just a 14-month-old Mary bull calf that I think is doing a lot of things right. Real good in terms of his structure when he sets out in motion. A bull that gives you a really striking look from the side. I love him in terms of his rib cage, his levelness of hip. He's square out of his top. A bull that's got some muscle and dimension when you get right in behind him. Real good in terms of his testicular development for this stage of the game. I think a bull that's going to do a great job covering some cows later on in his life. Just a really, really nice single entry from the young lady. Congratulations to her.
Junior yearling bull, first place to Kira Lehman with Make You Famous. She'll also stand as our senior champion bull. We're now ready to select our grand champion bull of the other registered purebreds. We need Amelia Brown's Butterscotch and Kira Lehman's Make You Famous.
Well, we had three really good bulls in our AOB Bull Show out here, and I think that there's just a lot of differences in type and kind, and the main difference for me at this stage of the game is just maturity. We had two bulls in that first class that were extremely young and immature, and that doesn't mean that they're not good or good cattle and won't be good one day, but it is a little more difficult to kind of compare them to the 14-month-old yearling bull that we have that the young lady brought us out of that last class. So as we get to evaluate these bulls, I think it's pretty obvious for me that we need to go ahead and use the older bull, not just because he's older, but because he's very good in terms of his quality. He's got some muscle, he's got some center body, he's got a really good look from the side, and I think he's going to make a nice breeding bull for the young lady. So he'll go ahead and be your champion, followed by the yellow bull calf out of our very first class will be reserved. Congratulations.
Grand champion bull of the other registered breeds goes to Kira Lehman's Make You Famous and reserved to Amelia Brown's Butterscotch. Congratulations, ladies. Next class, pair of bulls, other registered purebreds, Rex and Butterscotch from Amelia Brown.
Well, we got our pair of AOB bulls out here, Rex and Butterscotch. They both came out in our very first class, and we both talked about them as individuals. Both very, very good and very, very quality in terms of the way they're built at the ground, good in terms of their structure. They got some muscle. There's a few differences in types and kind as we evaluated them in a particular class, but I tell you, for them to both come from the same exhibitor and same breeder and be able to get them back out here in the pair of bulls class is very, very cool for them. Just one more rep through the ring for those calves, which is going to get them that much more broke. So my hat's off to you guys for getting them entered and getting them exhibited here at the fair. Let's give these exhibitors a big round of applause. Good job.
Best Pair of Bulls, other registered purebreds, goes to Amelia Brown. Next class. We should have a cow-calf class. One entry from Amelia Brown with Molly and Rex.
Well, a really nice single entry cow-calf class here, and I think we got a really nice young cow, really good in terms of her udder and development and shape and levelness of her teats. I think a female that's got some rib shape and body, good in terms of her structure, and passed a lot of those good traits onto this bull calf that she's got at side. Really good in his structure as well. I know we've talked about him twice here already, and he's back in, but it is fun to see him alongside of his mom and see the way that they pair up and kind of the attributes and traits that cow's passed on to that bull calf. Really, really high quality pair with a real nice young cow. Congratulations to these exhibitors.
Cow-calf class, other registered purebreds, first place to Amelia Brown. Next class, best bred and owned, other registered purebreds. Two entries, Amelia Brown with Rex and Olivia Homan. She's on her way. Crossbred breeding beef exhibitors. You're on deck. Crossbred breeding beef exhibitors. You're on deck.
Well, I think there's a lot of quality in both of these particular cattle, and I do think it is maybe a little difficult to have a bull out here in the bred known and a heifer as well. And I think, like we mentioned earlier, I don't want to just opt to use the older one because it's older, but I do think that there's a lot of quality in the Highland female, and she's kind of had her day of running into some bigger and wolfier cattle that are ahead of her, and then she gets an opportunity to come out here in the bred known show and be the bigger of the two. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and use the young lady's Highland female to be your champion bred known AOB, and then the young lady's bull calf will be reserved. Congratulations.
Best bred known of the other registered purebreds. First place to Olivia Homan and second to Amelia Brown. Just a reminder, we do a champion overall bred and owned, all breeds competing. So if you've won your bred and owned class, at the end of the show, you'll be back in the ring for selection of our champion bred and owned, all breeds competing. We're ready for our crossbreeds. First class junior heifer calf, one entry from Warren Brown with McGee.
Well, we got a young individual out here getting started in our crossbred heifer show, and I think that this one does a lot of things right. Really attractive and extended throughout the front one-third of her skeleton. Ties real high out of the top side of her shoulder. She's level down her top and square out of her hip. A female that I think's got a very, very bright future ahead of her for the young man. Congratulations to him.
Junior heifer calf, first place to Warren Brown. Next class. Sorry, Warren will also stand as your junior champion heifer. Next class, crossbred summer yearling heifer. 2 entries, Katie Miller with Bubbles and Faith Deal with Whiskey.
Well, two really high-quality cattle that are out here as we're getting rolling in our crossbred heifer show, and I think that there's a lot of differences in type and kind. I'm going to go ahead and use the black heifer to win the class. I think today she's just longer and more extended throughout the front one-third of her skeleton than the heifer that comes in two. I like this heifer in terms of her underline. I think she's a little more bolder there in the center portion of her cage. Has some muscle when you get in behind her. She's square out of her hip and level out of her top, and I think it's just kind of a combination female today. I do say I think that neither one of these heifers are perfect in terms of their structure, and that our class winner could be freed up off of both ends of her skeleton when you ask her to set in motion. But I think the same thing is to be said about the white heifer in two. Wants to get just a little short in her stride when you ask that one to go in motion. It's just a little bit straighter there in her hock. But I love this one in terms of how flexible she is in her pastern. I do like how much muscle this one has when you get in behind her. Just a really cool kind of an outlier female that I think the young ladies should be awfully proud of. Very, very cool class. A lot of differences in type and kind. Let's give both these exhibitors a big round of applause. Congratulations.
Summer yearling heifer, first place Katie Miller, and second Faith Deal. Next class, crossbred junior yearling heifer, 2 entries, Warren Brown with Champagne and Amelia Brown with Pearl.
Well, two really nice cattle out here in our crossbred heifer show, and I think that there is some differences in type and kind here, but at the end of the day, I think both these cattle are very high quality. For me, I'm going to lean more towards the yellow heifer or smoke heifer to win this particular class, just from a structural standpoint. I think this one is set to her shoulder and flex at her knee is a lot better than the black and white heifer that comes behind her, and I think this one reaches a little better off both ends of her skeleton. A little more fluid there from her hock to her, hock to ground when you ask her to set in motion, just a little more flexible and comfortable when you ask her to go. When you get this heifer parked, I think you can really appreciate her. Her center body is good. I probably prefer her added cleanliness, underline over the the black and white heifer that comes in too. A female that's really level out of her hip and square out of her hind end. If I could change this heifer, I'd really like to put the front end of the black and white heifer on this gray heifer, because this gray heifer's a little plainer there at her jaw and a little plainer there at the base of her chest, but I think that this female does a lot of good things and is going to make a really, really nice cow for the young man later on down the road. The black baldy heifer that comes in too. Love this one from the side. Really attractive and extended throughout the front one-third of her skeleton. For me, we got to free her up off of both ends of her skeleton. She wants to push forward and be a little straighter in the knee and straighter from hock to ground in that heifer that we used to win the class. But as I don't want to take anything away from a really high-quality crossbred female, it's going to make a great cow for the young lady as well. Really good pair of cattle. Congratulations.
Junior yearling heifer, first place to Warren Brown's Champagne and second to Amelia Brown's Pearl. We're now ready to select our senior champion heifer of the crossbreeds. We need Katie Miller's summer yearling heifer, Bubbles, and Warren Brown's junior yearling heifer, Champagne.
Well, more differences in type and kind here in this particular division, and I think as they get back out here and we evaluate and we go back to some of the fundamentals we've talked about today, structure is an important thing. It's an important thing for me. I think it's an important thing for a lot of cattle producers on the commercial or the show cattle sector. Structure is very important. I think cattle need to be fundamentally sound at the ground, and then we need to build them off of that. And with that being said, I don't want to take anything away from either one of these heifers, but I think there's one heifer that's better fundamentally in terms of her structure, and then combines that with a little more base width and muscle and power, and that'll be the young man Smoke heifer out of the last class of being division champion. The young lady will be reserved. Congratulations.
Senior champion heifers of the crossbreeds goes to Warren Brown's Champagne and reserved to Katie Miller's Bubbles. We're now ready to select our grand champion heifer. We need our junior champion heifer, Warren Brown McGee, and our senior champion heifer, Warren Brown's Champagne.
As we get out here in our selection for our champion crossbred heifer, I think that the heifer that won that last division is just a really good representation of the crossbred breed. I think she checks a lot of boxes and does a lot of things right. That heifer that's out of that last division will be your champion crossbred, and I'd like to have the reserve in that division come out here to be evaluated as well.
Grand champion heifer of the crossbreeds goes to Warren Brown with Champagne. We'll bring in the reserve senior champion, Katie Miller's Bubbles, and we'll select a reserve grand champion heifer.
I think that was a close pair and a close division with the black heifer that ended up reserved to our champion overall in division. As we get her back out here, I think she's most like that heifer that we used to win the class. I think fundamentally she just does the most things right, different in terms of her type and kind, like I mentioned before, in division and in class. But for me, we need to keep that pair together. She'll be the reserve champion crossbred. Congratulations.
Reserve Grand Champion Crossbred Heifer goes to Katie Miller with Bubbles. Next class, we're ready for our Crossbred Cow-Calf. We have 2 entries, Amelia Brown with Diamond and Butterscotch, and Warren Brown with Elf and McGee. Exhibitors, up next is our Grand Champion Heifer of the show, all breeds competing. If you had a champion heifer, Grand Champion Heifer of a breed, please make your way to ringside. Graham Adams Angus with Bella. Kiera Lehman Simmental Zam. Hannah Bruneyes Maintainer Indy. Lexi Carter's other registered purebred Blackbird. And Warren Brown's crossbred Champagne. Those animals to ringside for selection of our Grand Champion Heifer of the show.
Well, 2 really nice cow-calf pairs out here in our crossbred show to round things out. And I'm going to go ahead and use the red cow and the butterscotch-colored bull calf to go ahead and win. I think that this cow is probably better and more practical in terms of her size. I think this female's got some muscle and body when you get in behind her, and I think she's raising a really nice bull calf. I remember him from earlier on in the show. He's sound and good in terms of his fundamentals and structure. A bull calf that's got some muscle when you get in behind her. I think that's just probably the best pair in terms of checking all the boxes and doing the right things. That's not to take anything away from the smoke pair that comes behind him, because I probably really prefer this smoke heifer calf and think that this cow's doing a tremendous job. For me today, as I evaluate the cows, I think that even though she's just a 2-year-old, she's a little smaller in terms of her size, maybe a little more tubular in terms of the center portion of her cage, and just doesn't have the overall cow look as the red cow that wins the class. But 2 very nice pairs. Glad that they exhibited them here at the fair. Congratulations.
Crossbred Cow-Calf, first place to Amelia Brown with Diamond and Butterscotch, second to Warren Brown with Elf and McGee. We are now ready for our Grand Champion Heifer Drive, all breeds competing. Once again, Grand Champion Angus Heifer, Graham Adams with Bella. Grand Champion Simmental Heifer, Kiera Lehman, Zam. Grand Champion Maintainer Heifer, Hannah Bruneyes, Indy. Grand Champion Heifer of the other registered purebreds, Lexi Carter's Blackbird. And our Grand Champion Crossbred Heifer, Warren Brown's Champagne. Up next, we have our grand champion cow-calf pairs, all breeds competing again. While we have our champion heifer drive in the ring, I'd like to recognize our judge, Mr. Brennan Collega, one more time for coming out today. All of our ring help, our volunteers, our exhibitors, all the parents. Let's put our hands together one more time for everybody involved in making our breeding beef show a success today. Exhibitors, one final reminder as we finish up the show today, please help in cleaning up the aisleway outside the show ring. Walk the path back and forth to the tie stalls. Let's clean up any of the patties that are there. Thank you so much for cooperating today. It's been a great show.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up our beef breeding show, please join me in congratulating and giving these exhibitors a big round of applause for making it this far. Been a really good show with lots of quality from top to bottom, from our Angus all the way down into our crossbred at the end. And like I said in showmanship, the kids have just been awesome. The cattle have been super competitive and super great as well. We've seen a lot of differences in types and kinds as we get out here, but I think as we evaluate our champion lineup, we kept an emphasis on structure. We made sure that these cattle were fundamentally sound at the ground. These cattle all have some muscle. Most importantly, they have some body and some dimension because these are breeding cattle. And I think as we go through and evaluate all of them, they look like show cattle. They're long-necked, they're extended, they're balanced, they're proportioned well. I think that there's one in particular that really I just can't stop gravitating towards. Super attractive from the side, massive in terms of the center portion of her cage, super good in terms of her balance. And then for me, it probably gets a little tighter for reserve because I know there's some ringside that will have a chance to come back out here after we select our champion. But again, I've had a great time here evaluating your guys' breeding cattle show. The cattle have been phenomenal. Do not forget to thank your parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles, brothers, sisters, whoever it was that helped you get to this point. We're right here in the middle of the week. It's a Tuesday, so people are taking off of work and missing out on all sorts of other things they could be doing to help you young people at this show. So make sure you thank the people that got you here, and I'll go ahead and get you guys a grand champion female. Let's give all these exhibitors one more round of applause.
Your grand champion breeding heifer goes to Kira Lehman with her Simmental Zam. Congratulations. We don't have a reserve Simmental, so we'll keep the animals in the ring and we'll pick a reserve grand champion heifer. And your reserve grand champion heifer goes to Lexi Carter with our other registered purebred champion heifer. Congratulations all of our exhibitors again. We're now ready to select our grand champion cow-calf pair. So we need all of our cow-calf pairs back into the ring. If you were a winning cow-calf pair, we should have Amelia Brown with Molly and Rex, and Amelia Brown with Diamond and Butterscotch. Next in the ring will be our grand champion bred and owned. We need Mackenzie Wingert's Angus Heifer Kaya, Kira Lehman's Maintainer Pandora, Olivia Homan with your other registered purebred. Those animals at ringside for selection of grand champion bred and owned.
Well, we get out here for selection of our overall champion cow-calf pair, and I think we got two really good representatives. I know there's a second back at the barn as well that was second to this particular red cow-calf pair, but I think that there's two individuals out here that are very competitive in my mind, two of them that do a lot of things right. I'd say the red cow for me is kind of sticking out in my mind, just the way that she's raising that Butterscotch bull calf. I mean, he's stout, he's muscular, he's also in terms of his structure, which is very similar to his mom. I think that the red pair is doing a lot of things right. And then we have the LOB pair. There was a single entry in that particular class. It is nice to get her back out here and in contention with some extra competition compared to just being a single entry like she was early on. And for me, I know she's young and she's probably got a lot of miles ahead of her and a lot of future cattle to raise. She probably doesn't quite have the performance as the red cow that's behind her, and maybe quite isn't raising as big and stout of a calf as that red cow is behind her. So today I'm going to use the red cow to be your champion pair overall, followed by the OB to be reserved. Congratulations.
Grand champion bred and owned go to Amelia Brown with Diamond and Butterscotch, and reserved to Amelia Brown's Molly and Rex. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Up next is our champion bred and owned, all breeds competing again. We're going to run the list one more time. Mackenzie Wingert's Angus Heifer, Kaya. Kira Lehman's Maintainer Heifer, Pandora. And Olivia Homan's Highland from the other registered breeds. Once again, this is Grand Champion, bred and owned. Exhibitors up next, we're going to pick our Grand Champion bull. And actually, our grand champion bull, we only had bulls in the other registered purebreds. So the grand champion bull of the other registered purebreds, Kira Lehman's Make You Famous, and the reserve Amelia Brown's Butterscotch will stand as our grand champion, reserve grand champion bull of the show. We'll get your awards out to you. If you haven't been privy to see a weather report today, they are calling for quite the storms throughout the day, especially later this afternoon. So every time you have a chance, pick up the stuff around, secure all your belongings, and please watch out for your neighbors on either side of you. Grab tents, stake them down. If they're not there, try to help out and secure their items as well. Thank you.
Well, a really good lineup of bred-known heifers out here, and I know that they've all had a chance to show in the own show already. So we have talked about them and picked them apart and talked about the good and the bad of each one of these individuals as they come back out here. But before we pick, for those of you that are sitting ringside, just so you understand why they're back out here, these are in contention for a separate championship that they call the bred-known division, which means these exhibitors own the cow that these calves or these heifers are out of. When they made the mating decision, they bred that cow to a particular bull, they calved that calf out, and then halter broke it and raised this calf. So these individuals, I think, deserve a special round of applause because they're doing it on the forefront of raising their own stock at home and exhibiting the stuff that they're able to raise. That being said, I think that there's a lot of quality out here. We've seen some cattle that have been very competitive in the own show today that are here eligible for the bred knowns, and I think that that's really cool for these young people to be able to have cattle that can compete with some of the own cattle that have been going out and purchased. So the bred known show is something that I don't take lightly. I know we went through and discussed all of them already, so I'm not going to take the time to go ahead and do that, but my hat's off to these exhibitors for taking the time to raise their own cattle and then bring them to the fair and get them exhibited. That being said, I think that there's one heifer in this particular lineup that does the most things right, and that'll be the Angus out of the very first division. Congratulations to her.
Grand champion bred known goes to Mackenzie Wingert's Angus heifer, Kaya. That concludes our show for today. Once again,